Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Kyle and welcome to my top 3 show. I'm going to combine it with the town hall that's actually going on tonight. So I hope everybody's been having a good week. And I must say that I've had a very difficult time keeping up with everything that's going on. So thank you so much for people who have been sending me instant messages over the past 48 hours. And it's almost just too much. And I don't know how people can do this. Especially when you're trying to hide information, particularly as you can imagine, what I'm going to talk about today is primarily the Hunter Biden deal that's going on. I'm going to go through a ton of articles, and leading up to the town hall tonight, I want to break off a little bit, maybe 10 minutes prior, so I can set that up because the stream is not available right now on Facebook, which is where I do my watch parties, and I stream that simultaneously with YouTube. So you can watch this also on Facebook as well. So anyway, again, my name is Kyle, and this is your first time here. This is the conservative take, and what we do here is we take culture, TV, and movies and politics and whatever's going on around the water cooler, and we filter it to you the right way. And so I've been doing this for about 2 years now, and been enjoying it. And the live streams are a way of breaking up some of the monotony what the channel does. So if you want to like us and subscribe, tell your friends, that'd be great. There's some links below that's streaming below us right now of how to get a hold of us and how to plug into what we're trying to do. So with that being said, I will say a couple things here. I got 2 monitors here, so I'm going to be looking over here. I don't want to mess things up. This is my main monitor for my content. This is my main monitor for my streaming. So I'm looking over here. It's only because I'm trying to interact with people. So that's how I'm going to run today, because sometimes I get confused with what I'm trying to do here. But anyway, so if you want to comment, please do so. There's a comment section. You can just click over here, and what will happen is I will post those comments onto the screen. If you don't want those comments to be displayed publicly, I will just put an asterisk by it, or just note, say, hey, private or whatever, and I won't put it on the screen for you to for people to see. So because sometimes people want a private message just to me directly, and that's how you can kind of do that too. You can also send me an instant message as well if you're doing it through, well, actually you can't, because you have to be on the channel itself to do it. So yeah, so just do it through the comment section. You should be fine there. All right, so what I want to do is first talk about what's going on with Hunter Biden. So, you guys may know that I did a video, and a lot of people did a video back in October of last year. Basically, the whole deal with the whole phone call that President Trump was accused of making with the Prime Minister of the Ukraine. I have a video on that. It's not a really good video, but it's out there. You can go check it out, where I try to give a rundown of what was happening with that and the background with Burisma and all of that controversy with Joe Biden and what he was doing, and his connections with Burisma and with the board of directors and with a bunch of, it's a big web. So I kind of talked about that a little bit, but it really had to do with Obama administration and being appointing Joe Biden to be the ambassador to the Ukraine. And then it seems as if we know pretty much right now that Biden pretty much gave his son a sweetheart deal, put him on the board of Burisma with another guy, and they were making lucrative deals. And of course, that whole time they were denying it. And so, well, what we found out as of day before yesterday, let me do this. Let me switch over to my thing here. So be with me 1 second, pull this up. You guys can see this. Right. All right, let me do that and do this. All right, cool. So this here is the article that came out from the New York Post. And essentially with the New York Post, they exclusively got the hard drive. I mean, and I think other people have had access to it as well. I know OAN, the network OAN, posted a tweet today saying that they've seen contents of the hard drive, and it's way worse than what we think in terms of implications. But the initial timeline was this. So there was a laptop that Hunter Biden had, and this laptop was his personal laptop, I assume, and it had content of him with pictures and emails going back and forth with his dad and his family members and so forth. And what ended up happening was he sent it to a repair shop, and the repair shop guy never gave it back over. He never gave it back when he never came back in to pay for the repair service, he just left the laptop there. And in doing so, the owner of the laptop company, whatever computer company, he had the legal right to keep it. And so he went into the hard drive, probably to figure out who this was, because if someone leaves property, you may want to figure out whose it was, and looked at the contents of it, found out who it was, saw what was on there, got scared for his family, contacted the FBI after making a copy for himself. And then that happened back in December of last year, around the same time this whole thing was going down with the impeachment stuff and the indictments and stuff, all this stuff that the FBI pretty much sat on. And that's a big question right there. And so that's how it got out. Some people say, well, it was because it was leaked. Well, it wasn't leaked. It wasn't leaked at all. It was actually Hunter Biden leaving the laptop somewhere where, it was in a private hand, and that private entity kept it because he left it there. And so with that, that's pretty much what I know. Here's the owner right here. This guy here, he says here that the man, John Paul Mac Isaac, said he had a condition that affects his visions and can't be 100% sure it was Hunter Biden who dropped off the computer for repair. The Wilmington shop owner said he contacted the FBI out of concern, but declined to specify what he meant. So this article is from Fox News, and we have another article here. Let me see. This is from, actually, let me jump over this one. This is the Gateway Pundit. It says, so today we have another article which basically said that the new emails also not only showed Hunter Biden's connections with the Ukraine and actually having his dad be introduced to a key person in the Ukraine, where Joe Biden said he wasn't involved in that. He said in the debate that he had no part in any of his children's or brothers' businesses. He knew nothing of that. And so now it seems as if the emails tell a different story altogether. And I want to show you an email, a Twitter here from, I think it's been, pull this guy here. It's a really good tweet here where Ben basically says, look, so you'd say at one point you said that you don't have information about Ukraine, but now all of a sudden your campaign is now saying that you do. So Ben Shapiro says here, he says, so let me get this straight. The New York Post reported a leaked email in which a Ukrainian businessman thanked Hunter Biden for brokering a meeting with Joe. Joe's campaign denied that any meeting was on the schedule, then admitted that Joe might have interacted with him. So the campaign basically said was, they said, well, we looked at Joe Biden's calendar and there was no meeting on the calendar, so it didn't happen. But then, of course, when this thing came out, now they changed the story and said, in quotes, he might have had an interaction with the Ukrainian business person. And so there's a lot of things that are uncovered here. And I want to get more into what's happened after this, because we've already known the fact that the Biden campaign and Biden himself and Hillary Clinton, all of these people who are involved in this conspiracy are dirty and are all in it up to their necks. We know that. We know that there is something more there that hasn't been disclosed. Here's the problem, though. The problem is that the government, the big tech industry, like Facebook and Twitter and even YouTube, I believe, have purposely gone out and censored a newspaper that's been around for over 100 years. And they're going to tell them that they can't print their own articles in their own Twitter account. They are blocking people like the president, like the national spokesperson. They blocked her account as well. And even Twitter right now, if you try to go out and do a tweet now, I know I can't even tweet anything right now. They're saying it's too busy. There's a concerted effort right now by the big tech to squash this story. And because I think it just really is an utter embarrassment to the Democrats, to everyone who has been vouching for Joe Biden, to Hunter Biden himself, a big embarrassment to him, if you can even say that, because these pictures on this laptop are really, really interesting. I'll leave it at that. But even with him, he had an interview where he basically denied everything as well. And we don't know everything that's on this particular laptop or these emails. But from what I understand from OAN and from people that have said they've seen it, it goes a lot deeper and there's a lot much more to uncover here. So, you know, I'm very interested to know how this is going to go. We have here with, is anybody commenting on here? No one's commenting, doesn't look like. If you want to comment, let me know, because no one's commented yet. Just want to make sure people are on. Let me do a quick test here. Okay, so right here, I saw a little bit of Giuliani's announcement here. I didn't watch all of it, but a text message exchange between Hunter Biden and his sister Naomi appears to suggest Democrat presidential candidate Joe Biden profited from his son's overseas business dealings. So not only do we have a contradiction with the quid pro quo issue of Joe helping his son with the Ukraine or having any involvement with Ukraine, we have a situation where there could be a situation where he's actually profiting from his son's overseas business dealings. And there's another email that relates to the fact that China is offering millions of dollars for just introductions to whomever. I don't think it said who. So here it says that the suggestive text was shared by Trump attorney Rudy Giuliani on this program, Common Sense Wednesday, following an expose published earlier in the day by the New York Post, which showed former President Biden lied when he claimed he knew nothing of his son's work in Ukraine. Giuliani came into possession of a huge amount of damning information on the Bidens after obtaining the hard drive from a laptop believed to belong to Hunter Biden, which was reportedly given to his lawyer and the FBI by a computer repairman in Delaware. Now we're going to want to know what is the scheme that they use for distributing the money, Giuliani says, referring to Biden crime family. Well, this just so happens to be a text. A text was in the hard drive of Hunter Biden, and it is from Hunter Biden and Naomi Biden discussing money, but it makes a very big mistake. He explains the distribution scheme that the Biden family has had for years. He goes on to talk about that. I mean, this stuff here is, I mean, if I just want to take a break here and just kind of just sit back and let's just sort of just talk about the implications here. I mean, if you really just sit back and think about the implications. Okay, we're talking about, and this goes back to before President Trump was even inaugurated, a duly elected president, okay, president-elect, was literally framed by the DNC and Hillary Clinton to push the blame to him for that when he gets into office, people like Michael Flynn won't go and investigate further and find out where the corruption is. And so I believe that Michael Flynn was used as the first point of interest for them to get him out of the office because they knew that he would uncover stuff. And from there, they can do the damage. So they take a campaign that was used for misinformation and for op research, even though it was corrupt op research. And then when it didn't work, flip that whole thing around, the dossier and everything else, onto the president as if he did it. It's the whole thing where it's like, blame your enemies for what you're guilty of. And I think that's exactly what this is. It's a big cover-up, not only to get Trump, but also to cover up the people who were actually responsible for all this that was going on prior to. And so now we have a situation where the vice president of that administration going out is not implicated in cooperating with Ukraine, which was the reason why Trump was supposedly impeached to begin with. I mean, it's just insane. And then we have a big tech group of people who were actually put on the Biden campaign just a few weeks ago. And now we're finding that they're openly blocking and banning people for tweeting, retweeting, sharing articles. Facebook themselves said they're going to suppress the story because whatever reason they gave is just utterly ridiculous. And now I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's sort of what we're at now. But that's the implication here. That is what we're seeing. And for me, I had a person very close to me, very, very close. I won't call this person out, but we had an argument. I'd say about, it's before COVID. So I'll probably say it was probably around November of last year. And this person told me that this person, by the way, is a big Democrat, big donor, everything, told me we would never be a socialist country because of whatever reasons this person gave. And I was like, look, can't you see what's going on? Can't you see what's happening with, with just what, at this time, the things were doing the primaries, whatever, what Bernie was talking about, what AOC was talking about, what I'm forgetting the lady's name, Pocahontas, what she was talking about, that what they were saying was incredibly socialist, and they weren't even hiding from it. And the radical left of that party was becoming more the mainstream in the party. And this person just wouldn't believe that. And I was trying to let them know that this is what it is. But now, this week, we have seen, to me, really the first time that I know specifically where we see ultimate censorship by the internet, by big tech, for companies on behalf of a political party. And that right there is the same thing that North Korea does. It's the same thing that China does. We're seeing things even as far as masks, where we have people who are being called out to spy on their neighbors if they're not wearing masks. So I hope this is a wake-up call to a lot of Americans. And unfortunately, this is really being suppressed big time in the media. And it's something that we should all really be concerned about. So let me see if I have any more articles here to talk about here. My connection isn't doing the best. I'm going to come over here to this article. This is where we have Kayleigh McKinney was banned by Twitter. Republicans getting ready to strike back against Silicon Valley. We have Senator Ted Cruz talking about going after big tech. We have Facebook and Twitter censors Biden bombshells weeks after execs joined the transition team. So as I said before, that following the publication of the New York Post bombshell story about Biden family's business dealing in the Ukraine, Facebook and Twitter worked hard to suppress the story across their platforms. The censorship comes just weeks after executives from both firms joined the Biden transition team. Interesting. Breitbart News recently reported on the New York Post bombshell story that indicated that Joe Biden may have met with an advisor to the board of Burisma. Burisma is a power company in Ukraine, an oil company, energy company, while he was vice president, arranged by his son, Hunter, who was working as a lobbyist for the company at the time. Joe Biden had previously said, quote, "I have never spoken to my son about his overseas business dealings," unquote. But the leaked emails allegedly show that Hunter introduced his father to a Burisma executive less than a year before Biden, actually as vice president, pressured the Ukrainian government into firing a prosecutor who was investigating the company. That's the famous video. Everyone's talking about that, where he was literally in public talking about, bragging about firing the person who was going to investigate the company whom his son was involved with. Incredible. And no one even bat an eyebrow about that. It is totally incredible. What time is the event on NBC? The event on NBC tonight is at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to cut this short in probably about 25 minutes, because I want to get some time to set the stream up. So this is just to get off, because I haven't done a video this week other than the one I did with the interview I had done with another gentleman a few months back. I posted that up. I was on vacation for a week and a half, so did get a chance to do a lot of content. But I'll tell you one thing, I did the live stream, the last one, where it totally died right after the first debate. It was everything was going perfectly. My metrics, my numbers were great. The bandwidth was great, and the whole thing just literally died. Once President Trump got on the stage, the whole thing died. So I don't know what was up with that. I am now in a more stable environment. Hopefully that will not happen again. All right, so shortly after the story broke, many found themselves having trouble sharing it across social media. Really? This censorship comes just weeks after executives from both Facebook and Twitter joined the Biden transition team. Breitbart News reported that in September, the Twitter public policy director, Carlos Monge, I guess, left the social media company to join the transition team for Biden. Monge's specific role on the team has not been made clear, and Biden's transition team reportedly declined to comment on the situation. How convenient. I mentioned here before about Ted Cruz announced that the Judiciary Committee will subpoena Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey to testify after the second day of Twitter blocking New York Post Hunter Biden reports. Yeah. So it says Senator Ted Cruz announced on Thursday morning that he and his colleagues in the Senate Judiciary Committee will subpoena Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey over the suppression of a report about Hunter Biden. Senator Cruz tweeted this. He said, "In the last 2 days, we have seen a remarkable development. We have seen big tech at Twitter and Facebook actively interfering in this election in a way that has no precedent in the history of our country." Incredible. And so we see now also, this is from the Washington Examiner. It says here that the Senate committee will vote Tuesday to subpoena Twitter CEO over blocked Biden corruption story. We shall see on that. What else do we have here? Okay, so we're kind of out of that. We're kind of out of that story now. So let me kind of go back here a little bit. Let me go back over this section here, because I'm not sure what the Republicans can really do at this point prior to the election. You know, I think the companies right now, they're betting on a Biden victory, and they're just hoping that if he wins, they can just have this thing squashed once he gets inaugurated. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do that between the time of the election to the inauguration, because I'm pretty sure, you know, there's still going to be time to do prosecution there. I think personally, the only thing that's going to prevent this thing from getting worse is if we start seeing indictments within the next month. I mean, people need to be indicted. There needs to be charges brought forth, and they need to be brought forth quickly, investigations, whatever it takes, because that's the only way the media is going to cover this, is to put people in handcuffs. That's it. Hunter Biden, get him, indict him, arrest him, put him in handcuffs, and let that be shown. That will not be ignored by any mainstream media. That will force the public to say, wow, people who have no idea what's going on, probably for no fault of their own, if they're just watching, you know, if they're just typical Americans who don't really pay attention to politics because they've been suppressed of the news. All they know is what they've heard on TV, Orange Man bad and all that. But even for those people, they will they will know and have questions as to why is the son of the former vice president and the leading candidate for president of the United States in handcuffs. That would be a big question. And that's something that the media just cannot cover. I mean, cannot not cover. So to me, I think the only way to do this is to, of course, have to be charges that are substantial, right? But the FBI is handling this thing for what, over almost a year? And to me, that's just inexcusable. But again, as more stuff comes on, as more stuff comes out, I guess we would just have to deal with that when it does. Let's see. Got a question here. Let me put this on the screen here. So Man and a Half says, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some sort of manufactured unrest to divert attention from the Hunter Biden scandal. Yes, I unfortunately, I think that may be the case, because I personally think that they were just caught by surprise on this. I really do. I think if they had known this was coming, that what Man and a Half is talking about right now would have already happened. It would have happened the day it launched. You know, the fact that they're 2 hours, so that they're 48 hours into the news cycle and still haven't gotten this thing squashed yet. I mean, the more you suppress this kind of thing, the worse it's going to get. And see, here's the thing. It's not just the fact that there's a connection between a quid pro quo situation with Biden. One thing that I probably think he could probably maneuver, as awkward as it is, but there's so much more in here. There's so much more. And one of the things about scandals is this. Scandals work like this, especially sadly in our day. Watergate wouldn't be sexy nowadays. If Watergate happened today, no one would even care because it's not sexy enough. Oh, okay, there's a break-in. Oh, okay, and you know, whatever. That's, you know, there may or may not be wiretaps in the White House. Well, you know, That's not sexy enough. What it is the picture. The picture. I'll say this because it's pretty much been proven it is. I'll just say this: the alleged picture of Hunter Biden with a crack pipe sleeping. I mean, those kind of pictures are seedy, and that's the kind of imagery that gets people's interest up. So when you have something like that out there, which is seedy and it's dark and it's just corrupt and it's like Jerry Springerish, people pay attention to that. But then they connect the dots. So okay, so he's doing this. Oh, this is connected to this. That's how the story can grow, simply because of that seediness part of it. If it's just technobabble, if it's just political speak, if it's just subcommittee this, and this person who's in a Russian name this, and met in this back closet room here, no one really cares about that. It's not. It's too convoluted. It's too conspiratorial, and it's easily dismissed as saying you're just a conspiracy theorist. But when you have actual pictures of the vice president's son doing the things he's done, with direct emails tied into things like, oh yeah, well, his dad didn't take half your money, as if like Joe Biden's like a crime boss. I don't have time to go into that, but look at that particular text. There's several texts in here that are just insane, and I'm sure there's much more. So to Man That Has point there, I would say I think they were caught by surprise, but I think now if they would do it now, it may be too much on the nose, but they may not have a choice. Because there is we have almost 20 days still to the election. There's tons of time for this to get bigger and bigger and bigger for Biden. And Biden shut his campaign down the day of lunch, right before lunchtime again. And so, I mean, it's interesting to see what's going on. It'd be interesting to see how the poll numbers shift on this. And I'll talk a little bit about the polls if I have time in a little bit here. So let's just jump into, so this has been a crazy week, all right? So Amy Coney Barrett, the person who is up for the Supreme Court justice position, she's going to fill the slot that was recently vacated by Ruth Bader Ginsburg in her passing. And she is now in her third day, going to her fourth day of confirmation hearings in the subcommittee. And so basically how it works is they have a subcommittee and they kind of talk about it and they vote on it. And the Republicans have the total control over that. I believe Lindsey Graham is the chair of that. I may be wrong on that. I haven't watched much of it. But so once it comes out of committee, then it can go for up and down vote, thanks to the Democrats with their nuclear option that they did a few years back, saying that you can win by a simple majority. I'm sure they wish that they didn't have to. I'm sure they wish that they had not done that. But anyway, that's neither here. That's neither here nor there. And so now looks like the vote will be next week on the 22nd. I think Lindsey Graham said that they were going to have the vote the 22nd, which was, what day is that? I guess that's, I don't know what day it is. Next week. And so when that, I think Tuesday. Is that Tuesday? Let me know. I'm sorry, hold on a second. So he says here, Blood, Sweat, and Gear says, if Biden wins, the Democrats will use this to get him out of office. They want Harris as president. Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, come on. Yes, because she's a yes man in the generic term. I mean, because she just does, she's a party loyalist. She has the most liberal votes in the Senate of any person. In other words, she votes for Democrats more consistently than anyone in the Senate. That's her. And I don't even think she believes that. She's just a yes man. She just does what she's told, and she's going to do that in spades. And just, I can go on about her for a little bit. I'd rather not, because she's such a yeah, I don't like her. I think she's disingenuous. I think she's fake. I think she locked up a lot of black men and laughed about it simply to make herself look tough on crime. Every time for like petty charges for marijuana possession, locked them up. I mean, by the droves. And I can go on her, but I mean, if for her to be president, would be really, really bad because people don't like her. People are voting for Joe Biden. People are not voting for Kamala Harris. She's not that popular. Joe Biden's more popular than she is, barely. But people are voting for Joe Biden, and it's a disservice to have him be replaced for her when they're really voting for him. And I think the mainstream media is blocking his health, blocking all the stuff that's going on, giving him cover, hiding his record, just to get him in office, just so they can do exactly what Blood, Gears, and Sweat said. Sorry, Blood, Sweat, and Gears said. So anyway, on a hot mic, liberal Senator Feinstein was caught ranting about Amy Coney Barrett's Catholic religion when she thought no one was listening. So I don't have the clip here, but that's just bad. There's a poll that came out last week on Rasmussen, which basically said that the American public is strongly opposed to religious litmus tests. 73% to 16% of Americans polled in this Rasmussen poll last week said that they don't feel that religion should be held against a person or a candidate for the Supreme Court. It's a strong majority. And I think 65% felt the same way about Catholics as well. So in general, it was religious in general, and 65 were for Catholics, overwhelmingly opposed to what the Democrats are trying to do, disparaging her for her faith. And I think that's definitely backfired. I think we're going to see that in the polls too, because people are warming up to Miss Barrett. And if you look at the poll numbers, I said that if he had gone for a Barbara Lagoa, she was from out of Florida, a sort of moderate to conservative female, was she appellate court? Yeah, appellate court judge. I thought that she would probably be a little bit easier to get confirmed, and it would be, she ticked all the check boxes, whatever. But I think Barrett is a more strong candidate, obviously. She even shocked me with her answers, so I'm glad he picked her. I thought it would be a safer bet to go with Lagoa. So, but when he went with Barrett, we saw his numbers take a dive. We saw him doing pretty well, going through, what are we in end of September. He was doing really, really well. He was actually up 1 or down 1 in Rasmussen with Biden, which meant he was basically up 3 with Biden nationally. And his poll numbers were constantly in the 50% for like 8 days in a row. But when that happened, and he caught coronavirus after that, and things started spiraling out of control. But now we're seeing it stable off, and now because people are really in love with Miss Barrett. Here you have a woman who defies feminists. I'm not saying feminists in the true way of a feminist. I'm talking about the liberal feminist, the man-hating feminist. All right, she is a feminist in the way that we should all admire a woman who, if we want to use the term feminist, should be. She's holding it down. She's raising a family. She's a loving wife. She is one of the most brilliant attorneys in the world. And she is just you can just tell she's compassionate. When she gave the answer about George Floyd, a very compassionate answer. She has kids of different ethnicities, and including two I believe they're from Haiti, I believe, but they're Black children. And so she's sensitive in that as well. So in a way, she's got the full package of what I would see a true American woman could aspire to be. I want my daughter to aspire to be someone like her. And that is what I think flies in the face of the notion of these leftists out here who want to make feminism something that's America-hating, man-hating, pro-abortion. It just, I don't know. And that's not what Americans, females, aspire to be. If you look at the statistics, females, when you ask women what their take on feminism is, they have a negative opinion of that because they're looking at it in that limelight. But in terms of everything else, they are for that. So when they see a person like Amy Coney Barrett, who epitomizes that very thing in the flesh, that's something that they gravitate towards. And she's using absolutely no notes in these long, grueling sessions. No notes, just sitting there and taking it and giving it back. And she's just totally chill with it. So I think that's an awesome testimony for her. And she will be confirmed next week. And that will be a very, very big thing for this country, because there will be a 6-3 majority of constructional conservatives on the court, which would be the first time we've had that since going back to the Warren Court back in the 60s. And that would be amazing. That would be great for this country. And that, along with the Trump victory and holding the Senate and taking the House, I think would be right on our way to making this country what it needs to be for the next generation. All right, where are we at here? 7:41. Okay, let's see if we have anything else to talk about. Any questions here? Yeah, I agree, A-Team. I agree, because they have a different value system altogether. Let me see. The Dems, let me see, put this up here. The Dems can't attack her qualifications, so they're attacking her personally. Exactly. Totally right there. Totally right there. So here's an article here. This is off the subject a little bit, but I found it pretty interesting, so I thought I'll talk about it. Elon Musk, the billionaire, says that Sweden was right on the lockdowns. Says instead of rebuking Sweden, such as South Dakota, who exposed the failures of lockdowns, we should be thanking them. And so he says here, when people think of polarizing countries, Sweden, hold on, let me get rid of that. Sweden rarely leaps to mind. My PC is locking up. Stop it. Don't. Anyway, I'll read it from here. Sweden's decision to take a lighter touch on the coronavirus pandemic, foregoing strict lockdowns and relying primarily on social responsibility to encourage social distancing, has made it a lightning rod for criticism. You know what? This is why I like Linux. All right, I'm using Windows now, but if you guys are into technology, I'm not a big fan of Windows. Let's put it that way. When I first started doing my YouTube, I was all Linux, 100%. But there was software incompatibility because some things I wanted to do, some filters I wanted for my editing software, and I had to switch back and forth between Windows and Linux. I just didn't like that. But I ended up going strictly to Windows because it just made it easier for my live streams and everything else. But now it's like I get these feedbacks and stuff like that. It's just a pain. Anyway, it says many commentators claim Sweden was behaving recklessly and selfishly by refusing to enforce an economic lockdown like most other nations around the world. Though its per capita death rate remained well below European neighbors such as the United Kingdom, Belgium, and Spain, each of which enforced strict lockdowns, Sweden became, as one CBS report, an example of how not to handle COVID-19. But I'm not gonna go through all this, but essentially Sweden is basically handling it right. Everyone was pretty much proven wrong. I'm not sure if they've got to herd immunity yet, but if not, they're really close. And they seem to be adjusting very well. No masks, no lockdowns, and the country's doing well. So, and I think people are coming to understand that. I think Americans are getting fed up with this. I think they understand the dangers, the risks, especially if you fall into certain categories. But it's just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, to lock people in to cause other issues that are no one had really thought about. That you can list: alcoholism, abuse, depression, and loss of work. And so, I mean, it's causing the country more harm than it is for just taking the people who are actually in a high risk category, who aren't feeling well, to sequester them and let the rest of the country, the rest of the people, live their lives. And so that was what I think Elon Musk was talking about. And I think American public is finally coming to grips with that. I think when Trump mentioned that in the debates, I think that really was a big point for him because they were trying to hammer him on that. I think at the end of the day, I think Trump really put his stamp on why this mask thing is not the end all be all. And the fact that he contracted COVID and came through in like 48 hours or less than a week means that he's not more empathetic. He understands. He's been briefed in a way that many of us would never be because he actually had it. I'm sure his doctors told him his risks, what was happening. And so he understands the level that most of us, unless we've actually had it and come through it, wouldn't know. So last thing I have here is the Biden campaign manager race. Okay, so yeah, this is about polls. Okay, let's talk about polls a little bit. I have something here, but it's not coming. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right, let's talk about polls a little bit. All right, so this is from Larry Schweikart, and he is a guy who I've been following, and what he does is he doesn't look at the polls. He looks at the auxiliary metrics, the internals, some of which are anecdotal, but they're things that we can see for our eyes in terms of trends that lead us to believe one way or another. Now, Larry is a New York Times bestselling author. He predicted 2016 down to the wire. He got it exactly right. And so I've been following him and a few others. And so he's basically giving his rundown on the polling today for the most part. So for Florida, essentially, he says that Democrat mail-in ballot or vote by mail, VBM means vote by mail, is in full swing. Right now, our extrapolations say that if it continues at the current rate, excluding Sundays, they would exceed what we think is a necessary floor of 650,000 by 55,000. So what he's saying is that they're guessing that they have a floor that the Democrats need to get to by election day. And they're calling it 650,000. They have to get that many mail-in ballots to have a shot at winning Florida, because that's the lead they'll need to overcome the swarm of Trump voters that are coming in after that. Because what happened, if you look at 2016, the Democrats had a huge early voting lead, but that went out in like an hour on election day because people came out in droves. And so that's what they're saying. So if they get around 650 or less, Florida is pretty much a done deal for Democrats, and the Republicans will take it. What he's saying is that they've done a really good job early on with that. And if the current pace continues, then they would get that level by about 55,000. But what he's saying is that that's probably just going to be just excitement, and it's going to go down. It will not keep at that pace. So really, they're really behind. He goes on to say here, now, before you panic, there are a couple of things, evidence from Ohio that these same phenomena, their incredibly fast start, has slowed. Yesterday was the first day in one sample country that Republican ballots exceeded Democrats. So at the current pace, I don't think will hold. He says, I expect it will be close, but I think they will slow and come up short by their 650,000 number. Secondly, realize all we know, these are ballots that come from D's or R requests. It has nothing to do with how they actually voted. He goes on to say, I always assume the worst, that is a D ballot is a D ballot vote, which is safe. It gives you a baseline. Then he says, for what it's worth, say that of those are the black ballots, of 12 to 15% will be crossovers for Trump. Likewise, white Trump voters, ours have, for the most part, held their fire. So in other words, regardless of what's going on, given the polling metrics, what we see, that the fact that those numbers probably going to go down, what's going on in Ohio, that Florida is in a good shape for Trump, based on what we're seeing in terms of requests for vote by mail. Let me see. So he says here, this is pretty interesting. He says, there are two good reasons to think that despite this trends, there are very, he said, sorry, start over. He said, there are two good reasons to think that despite this trends are very good. First, Democrats voter modeling firm, Target Smart has been slowing. Okay, I give up. Target Smart has been showing very bad numbers for Democrats in North Carolina, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and elsewhere. In other words, fix this or you ain't getting paid. So what he's saying is that there's a modeling software or company that Democrats have been using called Target Smart, and it's not showing good numbers for them. And so now they're telling them to change their model. So yeah, you can go and read this. It goes on, talks about, he's just talking about stuff here. So that's kind of where it's going on. And also, he also mentions this here, that the Biden campaign today announced or said that the race is far closer than experts say. Now, I could have told you that. I have so much more to talk about on this outside of what Larry's talking about. There's a lot of metrics out there that basically show Trump is winning this election. He's winning this election. There's a couple of key areas that I'm really concerned about. That would be the elderly, where he's doing not very well at all with Democrats. And also, I'd say the Republican support is kind of doing this kind of thing. It went from 73% last week, where he actually had 12-point deficit to Biden last week. He was down 12 points with Rasmussen, the national poll. And now that's up to 5. It went from 12 to 5 in a week. And the reason for that is because of that 7% Republican vote that shifted back into the Trump camp. So there's still a bunch of Republicans out there, it seems, that are like this. But again, when I go into these polling, you have to understand that the Munster vote is still something that has not really been identified. And I think it's going to be stronger than it was in 2016. And if the non-college white voter comes out in bigger numbers than in 2016, Trump will win incredibly large, in a large fashion, because that section was such a big section of votes that had Hillary gotten the same numbers that Obama had gotten in 2012, she still would have lost. That's how big that number is. And there's still a high ceiling on that to go. So the Trump campaign has been going after that and farming that and getting that vote to come out. Then there's nothing really to worry about, because to me, there's nothing that they're going to be able to compensate there, especially when you consider the Latino vote and also the black vote being what it is. And lastly, in this Rasmussen poll, Trump is leading in the younger vote from 18 through 39, which I thought was very interesting. Not a big margin, but he's still leading in the younger voters, which I thought was extremely interesting. So with that, I'm going to break off here for this section here. I'm going to end this section here. I'm going to go and set up the live stream. Hopefully I can get it on. Hopefully they'll have it covered here. So NBC, so we'll see. If for some reason I can't get it up, we'll deal with that when we get there. So with that, I'm going to jump off here, and I don't see any more questions. Let's see. Okay, let me see a couple more questions here. So here it says, voter fraud is a huge concern, though. It is a huge concern. And one thing the Trump campaign's been doing is that they've actually lawyered up in all the key battleground states and areas. And one thing about voter fraud is that it's pretty easy to catch. And one thing about vote by mail, those votes are counted after the early voting, right? So those votes are counted after the fact. So it's going to be early vote, day of election voting. Those get counted first. And that's what you'll hear about on election night, right? Everything past that will get added on to that later. And so if Trump has a big enough lead, they can call states regardless. So we'll see what happens there, but it's going to just expect a lot of stuff happening. And with Amy Coney Barrett being put on the Supreme Court next week, every indication is that the Constitution will be upheld. So if these elections go to the point where they can't be resolved in the local level, in the appellate court level, then it's going to be resolved in the Supreme Court, where we have a 6-3 advantage. So, all right, let me jump off here. I'm going to cut this right now, and I will see you guys in a few.
overall, if you look at the broader picture, 26 million people right now in our country are still collecting some form of unemployment. That means the labor market is still hurting as we
All right, I'm going to spare you the audio, so I'll just take the audio off, and I'll see you back in a little bit. Take a quick break.
Official return to the campaign trail.
With just 19 days to go, the president makes his case.
My goal is to fight for you and fight for your family.
From NBC News, Decision 2020, President Trump Town Hall. Live from the Art Museum in Miami. Here's Savannah Guthrie.
Hi, everybody, and good evening. It's good to have you with us, and welcome to Miami and our town hall with President Donald Trump. And we want to say right off the top, this is not how things were supposed to go tonight. This was supposed to be a town hall debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. But after the president contracted COVID, the debate commission announced it would have to be a virtual debate because of health concerns. The president then said he would not participate in a virtual debate. At that point, Joe Biden scheduled a town hall tonight in Pennsylvania on another network, and now the president is doing the same, his own town hall with the same venue, format, and time as NBC's town hall with Joe Biden last week. So the two candidates go head-to-head tonight, though not face-to-face, each in a key battleground state. And tonight, the president will be taking questions from voters here in Miami, who we should mention are socially distanced and they're wearing masks. And I should say, this audience looks a bit like America. It's divided. Some here voted for the president in 2016 and plan to again. Some support Joe Biden, and some say they are truly undecided. We're going to get a mix of questions on a range of topics, and we're going to get to those questions in a moment. But first, with all that ado, welcome, Mr. President, and thank you for being here.
That was very well stated, I have to say. Good job.
Thank you. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're well. We send our best to the First Lady and to Barron.
Thank you.
Do you have any remaining symptoms from COVID?
Nothing whatsoever. I'm great. I feel good. I was in North Carolina today and did a big rally. We had tremendous turnout, and just feel really good. Florida, Pennsylvania, we're all over the place. It's been great.
You received some treatments that are generally reserved for those with the most severe form of the disease.
Yeah.
How severe were your symptoms? In particular, did you have pneumonia?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel strong. I had a little bit of a temperature. The doctors at the White House are fantastic, as you can imagine, and they really didn't want to take a chance. And they said, let's go to the hospital. I said, that's okay. I'm going to respond to what you say. And we went over to Walter Reed, where you have tremendous professionals. They gave me Regeneron and Remdesivir both. And all I know is I felt good the following day. I felt really good.
Did the doctors ever tell you that they saw pneumonia on your lung scans?
No, but they said the lungs are, a little bit different, a little bit perhaps infected. And
infected with?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't do too much asking. I really felt good. I didn't have much of a problem with the lungs. I did have a little bit of a temperature. Obviously, I felt there was something missing, and then I tested positive.
Well, let's talk about testing, because there's a little bit of confusion about this, and I think we can clear it up.
Yeah, and there shouldn't.
Your first positive test was Thursday, October 1st, okay? When was your last negative test? When did you last remember having a negative test?
Well, I test quite a bit, and I can tell you that before the debate, which I thought it was a very good debate, and I felt fantastically. I had no problem before.
Did you test the day of the debate?
I don't know. I don't even remember. I test all the time. But I can tell you this. After the debate, like I guess a day or so, I think it was Thursday evening, maybe even late Thursday evening, I tested positive. That's when I first found out.
Well, back to the debate, because the debate commission's rules, it was the honor system, would be that you would come with a negative test. You say you don't know if you got a test on the day of the debate?
I had no problem. Again, the doctors do it. I don't ask them. I test all the time. And
did you take a test, though, on the day of the debate?
If you ask the doctor, they'll give you a perfect answer. But they take a test, and I leave, and I go about my business.
Did you take a test on the day of the debate, I guess, is the bottom line?
I probably did, and I took a test the day before and the day before, and I was always in great shape. And I was in great shape for the debate. And it was only after the debate, like a period of time after the debate, that I said, that's interesting. And they took a test, and it tested positive.
So just to button it up, do you take a test every single day?
No, but I take a lot of tests.
Okay. And you don't know if you took a test the day of the debate?
Possibly I did, possibly I didn't. But the doctor is very accurate information. And it's not only that doctor, it's many doctors. The one thing, if you're president, you have a lot of doctors you're surrounded by. But I was in great shape for the debate. And sometime after the debate, I tested positive.
Let's talk about.
That's when they decided to let's go.
Okay, good. I hopefully provided some clarity for folks. Let's talk about the event that was held at the White House on the Saturday before you tested positive. Subsequent to that, 13 people connected to that event tested positive. There was an outdoor reception. You've seen the pictures. There was an indoor reception. People were not wearing masks. My question to you is, at this point in the pandemic, knowing what we know, shouldn't you have known better? Shouldn't the White House know better than to hold an event like that?
Well, they do a lot of testing in the White House. They test everybody, including me, but they test everybody. And something happened. But as far as the mask is concerned, I'm good with masks. I'm okay with masks. I tell people wear masks. But just the other day, they came out with a statement that 85% of the people that wear masks catch it. So
they didn't say that. I know that study.
That's what I heard, and that's what I saw. And regardless, but everybody's tested, and they're tested often. And I also knew that, hey, I'm president. I have to see people. I can't be in a basement. I can't be in a room. I have to be out.
You can see people with a mask, though, right?
I can, but people with masks are catching it all the time. I mean, if you look at the governor of Virginia, he was known for a mask. If you look at Tom Tillis, a great guy, he always had a mask, and they caught it.
Well, there are pictures of Tom Tillis actually with one of Judge Barrett's kids not wearing a mask. But, Chris Christie, he was part of your debate prep.
Yeah.
He was, I believe, at that event. He came out tonight. He was sick, very sick. He was in the hospital for about a week. He came out tonight and said, I was wrong not to wear a mask.
Well, I mean, he has to say that. I think it's great. He's a friend of mine. He's a good guy. And wrong or not wrong, you have to understand, as president, I can't be locked in a room someplace for the next year and just say and do nothing. And every time I go into a crowd, I was with the parents of our fallen heroes. These people are the most incredible people. And they came up to me, and they would hug me, and they would touch me. And I'm not going to not let them do it.
Now, there was an event with the Gold Star families the day after the Supreme Court event.
A Gold Star event with the most incredible people you've ever seen. And I could have chosen not to talk to them or to keep everybody away. And you know what? And I don't think that's probably where it was caught, but maybe it was.
I was going to say, you bring it up. You brought it up yourself. I mean, are you trying to suggest that? Do you believe a grieving military family gave you COVID?
No, I don't know where it came from.
Okay.
And you don't know where it came from, and the doctors don't know where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
But as the president, I have to be out there. I also know...
Well, there's no one that says you can't be out there, but it's just about wearing masks and having, for example, your rallies. Your rallies don't require masks.
No, I mean, let's see Kamala. She's got people now. People have it, and I'm not blaming her. I'm not saying, oh, she did a terrible thing. As president, I have to be out there. I can't be in a basement. I can't be locked in a very beautiful room someplace in the White House. And I want to see the Gold Star families, and I want to see everybody. And I also say to people all the time, it's risky doing it. It is risky doing it.
But as president, you're right. You want to be a leader, but you also are a leader and a setter of an example. And if you're not wearing a mask when your administration is saying best practice right now is wear a mask, no, it's not foolproof.
But many people are catching it. Many people are getting this disease that was sent to us by China, and it shouldn't have been allowed to happen. But many people are getting this. And I mean, nobody's being blamed. Everybody is working hard to get this thing out of our country, get it out of the world. Look at what's going on in Europe. Massive spikes. They've done a very good job. But now you take a look today at the UK, you take a look at Spain and France and Italy. There's tremendous spikes.
But our death rate is worse than, well, not Spain, but those other countries.
I have things right here that will tell you exactly the opposite.
Me too.
So the UK is up 2,500%, because I knew you'd be doing this. I know you very well. The UK is up 2,500%. The EU is up 722%, and the United States is down 21%.
So we have our deaths per capita is among the highest among industrially.
Excess mortality, we're a winner on the excess mortality. And what we've done has been amazing, and we have done an amazing job. And it's rounding the corner, and we have the vaccines coming, and we have the therapies coming. And I'll tell you what, one thing, when I got it, I had a choice, do nothing or use some of the things that we're looking at, like in this case, Regeneron. Yeah. And Eli Lilly makes something that's supposed to be incredible. And I think that maybe I wouldn't be doing this discussion with you right now. We have therapies now and cures, maybe you can use the word cure, but we have therapies that are absolutely incredible.
I want to pick up on something you just said. You said we're rounding the corner.
I believe we're rounding the corner.
Now, 10% of the country approximately has had COVID. That means 80, 90%, let's do the math, is still vulnerable.
Right.
There's been some talk, including from the White House lately, that perhaps it approves of what's called herd immunity. That's where you basically just let young people and everybody get sick. You try to protect the old people and those who are sick, and hopefully it gets up to a certain level, and now we're all immune. Yeah. So let's just be clear about it. It also means more deaths. Do you support herd immunity as a strategy? Essentially just let people get sick.
The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. We did the right thing. We were expected to lose 2,200,000 people and maybe more than that. We're at 210,000 people. One person is too much. It should have never happened because of China. It happened because of China. And you have to get that and understand that. But it shouldn't have happened. But we were expected to lose. If you look at the original charts from original doctors who are respected by everybody, 2,200,000.
That 2 million figure, though, is if you literally did nothing.
People.
The 2 million figure is if you did absolutely nothing, it would be 2 million. The question is, should the deaths be better than 200,000 when relative to the rest of the world we have a worse death rate?
I left North Carolina, which I love. I left Pennsylvania. We won a big case in Michigan because that governor has a lockdown where nobody but her husband can do anything. He can go voting and do whatever he wants, but nobody else can. The fact is we're winning all these cases because it's unconstitutional what they're doing. And I think they're doing it for political reasons. But the fact is the cure, you can't let this continue to go on with the lockdowns.
Well,
and I believe that on November 4th, you're going to have a lot of these governors. Look at what's happening to New York. New York is a mess. They lost almost 40,000 people. They have a lockdown like you've never seen. Now they're open. It's like a ghost town.
Let's get
and so on. It's very important. People are leaving New York by the thousands. And you're going to have a hard time ever building it up again. So that cure, that so-called cure that you talk about, it can't be worse than the problem. The problem is a bad problem.
We've got more questions on COVID, so let's drop it for now. We were supposed to, as mentioned, be watching you on a debate stage right now. We're not doing that, so let's clear up a few things from the last one. You were asked point blank to denounce white supremacy. In the moment, you didn't. You asked some follow-up questions. Who specifically? A couple of days later, on a different show, you denounced white supremacy.
No,
my question to you is,
you've done this to me and everybody.
Why does it seem like
I denounced white supremacy? Okay,
you did 2 days later.
I denounced white supremacy for years, but you always do it. You always start off with a question. You didn't ask Joe Biden whether or not he denounces Antifa. I watched him on the same basic show with Lester Holt, and he was asking questions like Biden was a child.
Well, so this is a little bit of a dodge.
Are you listening? I denounce white supremacy.
Okay.
What's your next question?
Do you feel, it feels sometimes you're hesitant to do so, like you wait a beat.
Here we go again. Every time, in fact, my people came, I'm sure they'll ask you the white supremacy question. I denounce white supremacy. Okay. And frankly, you want to know something? I denounce Antifa, and I denounce these people on the left that are burning down our cities that are run by Democrats who don't know what
while
they're
we're
doing.
Denouncing, let me ask you about QAnon. It is this theory that Democrats are a satanic pedophile ring and that you are the savior of that. Now, can you just once and for all state that that is completely not true and disavow QAnon in its entirety?
I know nothing about QAnon.
I just told you.
I know very little. You told me, but what you tell me doesn't necessarily make it fact. I hate to say that. I know nothing about it. I do know they are very much against pedophilia. They fight it very hard, but I know nothing about it.
They believe it is a satanic cult run by the deep state.
The subject. I'll tell you what I do know about. I know about Antifa, and I know about the radical left, and I know how violent they are and how vicious they are, and I know how they're burning down cities run by Democrats, not run by Republicans.
Republican Senator Ben Sasse said, quote, QAnon is nuts, and real leaders call conspiracy theories conspiracy theories. Why not just say it's crazy and not true?
He may be be right. I just don't know about QAnon.
You do know.
I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know.
Let me ask you another thing.
Let's waste a whole show. You start off with white supremacy. I denounce it. You start off with something else. Let's go. Keep asking me these questions.
I do have one more.
Let me just tell you what I do hear about it is they are very strongly against pedophilia, and I agree with that. I mean, I do agree with that, and I agree with it.
But there's not a satanic pedophile cult being run by.
I know
you don't know that? Okay.
No, I don't know.
You
that.
just this
neither
week.
Do you know that?
Okay, just this week
Why aren't you asking me about Antifa? Why aren't you asking me about the radical left? Why aren't you asking Joe Biden questions about why doesn't he condemn Antifa? Why does he say it doesn't exist?
Because you're here before me.
No, so cute. Antifa exists. They're vicious, they're violent, they kill people, and they're burning down our cities. And they happen to be radical left.
Just this week, you retweeted to your 87 million followers a conspiracy theory that Joe Biden orchestrated to have SEAL Team 6, the Navy SEAL Team 6, killed to cover up the fake death of bin Laden. Now, why would you send a lie like that to your followers? You retweeted
That was a retweet. That was an opinion of somebody, and that was a retweet. I'll put it out there. People can decide for themselves.
You're the president. You're not like someone's crazy uncle who can just retweet whatever.
That was a retweet. And I do a lot of retweets. And frankly, because the media is so fake and so corrupt, if I didn't have social media, I don't call it Twitter, I call it social media, I wouldn't be able to get the word out. And the word is, and you know what the word is? The word is very simple. We're building our country stronger and better than it's ever been before. And that's what's happening. And everybody knows it.
Okay, we got a bunch of questions for you.
We're winning in a lot of states. Okay. We're winning in a lot of states.
Let me ask, okay, I'm glad you brought up the election because I do want to ask about that. That's another kind of leftover item. A lot of people have asked you, will you accept a peaceful transfer of power? You have said repeatedly, the only way we lose this election is if it is rigged. Now, that is simply not true. The fact is either candidate can lose fair and square without ballot fraud. So will you accept the results of the election?
That's the way I want it to be. But when I see thousands of ballots, right, unsolicited ballots being given out by the millions, and thousands of them are dumped in dumpsters, and when you see ballots with the name Trump, military ballots from our great military, and they're dumped in garbage cans.
That is a handful. We could go all night, which we won't.
No,
but we could go all night,
every day.
one by one, a single case, a single day. You're talking about 150 million votes. Your own FBI director says there is no evidence of widespread fraud.
Well, then he's not doing a very good job. All you have to do is pick up the papers every day. 50,000 in Ohio, the great state of Ohio. 50,000 in another location, I think North Carolina. 500,000 applications in Virginia. No, there's a tremendous problem. But let me just tell you, they talk about the peaceful transfer, right? They spied on my campaign and they got caught, and they spied heavily on my campaign, and they tried to take down a duly elected sitting president. And then they talk about, will you accept a peaceful transfer? And the answer is yes, I will. But I want it to be an honest election, and so does everybody else. When I see thousands of ballots dumped in a garbage can and they happen to have my name on it, I'm not happy about that.
But just those are there is in fact no evidence of widespread fraud, and you were sowing doubt about our democracy.
How can you say that? You do read newspapers.
I do.
You do watch the news.
Yes,
I mean, you read the news, but you watch it.
I do.
Because every day they're talking about ballots that are corrupt, that are fraudulent.
And millions that are being processed right now.
But you can win a race. Take a look at me. You can win a race by 1%.
But why are you laying the groundwork for that right now? It's like if I go play tennis with my husband and I say my ankle's hurting right now.
I don't want that to happen, Savannah. I want it to be clean. Okay. I really feel we're going to win. But I want this to be clean. But it's sort of ironic that you and them talk about the peaceful transfer when I spent 3.5 years fighting off these maniacs. And now it turns out everything's there, that they were the ones that dealt with Russia. And it's too bad. But peaceful transfer, I absolutely want that. But ideally, I don't want to transfer because I want to win.
Yes, and I think that your words will probably reassure some folks. Let's get to our first voter. We've got Jacqueline Lugo. Now, she is, I told you this audience is truly split between y'all. You are leaning Biden. She voted for Clinton in 2016. She's registered as an independent. Jacqueline, what's your question for the president? And hold the mic up close and take off your mic because it's hard to hear out here.
Good evening.
How are you?
Welcome to Miami.
Thank you very much. It's beautiful.
Mr. President, if you knew COVID-19, as you told Bob Woodward in February,
As what?
as you told Bob Woodward in February, was airborne and deadlier than the flu, why did you only put in place a travel ban from China and not put in place other measures mitigating the spread of COVID-19, potentially saving tens of thousands of American lives?
Well, I did put it in very early, as you know. Joe Biden was 2 months behind me, and he called me xenophobic and racist and everything else because I put it in. And it turned out that I was 100% right. I also put it on Europe very early because I saw there was a lot of infection in Europe. And it's sort of an amazing question. And I appreciate the question and respect the question, but the news doesn't get out the right answer because I put on a travel ban far earlier than Dr. Fauci thought it was necessary, who I like, far earlier than the scientists. I was actually the only one that wanted to put it on, and I did it actually against the advice of a lot of people, including Nancy Pelosi, who had no clue what she was doing, and Biden. When I put on the travel ban, I put it on in January, the end of January. When I put on the travel ban, Joe Biden and others said, this is ridiculous. You don't do that. Well, Dr. Fauci said I saved thousands and thousands of lives.
Did you?
I was early. I was extremely early when I put on the travel ban.
Can I ask you, did your national security advisor on January 28th in the Oval Office warn you that this would be the greatest national security risk of your administration? He didn't say it, or you don't remember?
I read it someplace. Maybe Woodward said it or something. But no, he did not say that. But I knew it was a big threat. At the same time, I don't want to panic this country. I don't want to go out and say everybody's going to die. Everybody's
Isn't there a middle ground? You don't have to mislead, but you can.
No, there's not a middle ground. You have to be safe, you have to be vigilant, and you have to be smart.
You're going to like this next couple of voters. It's a mom and a daughter.
Good.
Mom, Barbara, voted for you in 2016. She's leaning to vote for you again. Now, her daughter was too young to vote last time. She's going to vote for her first time in a presidential campaign, and she is leaning Biden. So imagine the dinner table at their house, okay? So, Barbara, why don't you go first and ask your question?
Bienvenido a Miami.
Thank you.
Mr. Trump, as a frontline ER doctor working through the coronavirus pandemic,
Right.
I know firsthand, and I've seen that many hospitals throughout the United States are suffering financial hardships. These economic effects are trickling down to the frontline workers.
Right.
We are being, across the country, frontline workers are being fired, they're being furloughed, our salaries are being cut. And this is also happening in other economic sectors as well, including the travel industry and hospitality.
Right.
My question to you is, how are you going to get the United States back on track, both in terms of the economy and the pandemic?
So it's happening. We just set a record, 11.4 million jobs. We are going to have a phenomenal third quarter, which will be announced on November 1st, just prior to the big November 3rd day, where I think you're going to see a red wave. But we're going to have a tremendous announcement. I believe, we're going to find out, but GDP is going through the roof. Jobs, real estate, houses, so many things are happening. So people were saying we're going to have a 42% unemployment. Look, this was a thing that came into our country, and it happened more than 100 years ago, and it happened now. They were talking about a 42% unemployment rate.
Who was talking about that? I heard 20%.
At 7.8% unemployment, and people can't even believe it. Our economy is going to be next year, if we don't have somebody that raises taxes and quadruples taxes, which they want to do and kills everything, our economy is going to be phenomenal next year. We're going to have a phenomenal, and I'll tell you, Savannah, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country last year, including the state of Florida, where we are now, and Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, and Ohio, every place. We had the greatest economy we ever had. We had to close it down. We saved 2 million lives. We're opening it up. We have a V-shape, and it's coming back. It's coming back very fast. One other thing, we really helped the hospitals. We've sent billions and billions of dollars to the hospitals. In addition, hundreds of millions of masks and gowns, and we went into the ventilator business because this country was not equipped with ventilators. And I'm not blaming anybody for it, but we're now making thousands of ventilators a month, and we have all we can use. We're sending them all over the world because the world needs them. So they've worked very hard and really very, very effectively. Thank you. Great question.
Let's talk to Isabella and put the mic close to your mouth. Okay, go ahead.
Mr. President, my parents are, as you heard, both frontline healthcare workers, and I've seen the physical and the mental tolls that this pandemic has taken on them firsthand, as well as the exacerbation of coronavirus due to Americans who are not wearing masks or participating in social distancing. After contracting COVID-19 yourself, has your opinion changed on the importance of mask wearing?
No, because I was okay with the masks. I was good with it, but I've heard many different stories on masks. I mean, I had, being president, you have people, they bring meals, they bring this, and I had an instance recently where a very wonderful person is bringing me a meal and he's playing with his mask and he's touching his mask all over the place. And then he's bringing a plate in and I'm saying, well, I don't know if that's so good. I mean, the good news, I didn't eat it. Okay. I decided not to eat it. This was a month ago, but look, you have on the masks, you have two stories. You have a story where they want, a story where they don't want. I am all for it.
I don't get that because it's just all of your public health officials, your administration, they're in unison about this. No. They're all in unison about it. The University of Washington, which is they have a model that your coronavirus task force relies on, says that if everyone wore a mask, you could cut expected deaths in half.
And then 60,000
lives. Well, what does that mean?
Scott Atkins, if you look at Scott, Dr. Scott, he's from great guy, Stanford. He will tell you
he's not an infectious disease expert.
Oh, I don't know. Look, he's an expert. He's one of the great experts of the world.
But I don't get it because you have so much power and influence as president. You could require it at your rallies and you could say, everyone put on a mask right now. And the University of Washington says you would save lives.
University of Washington, then you have other places say different things. You have a lot. Hey, Dr. Fauci said don't wear a mask, right?
At first, but then everybody agreed.
No, I don't know. Then he changed his mind. But then you have a report coming out 2 days ago that 85% of the people wearing masks.
I looked at that report. It's not about mask wearing. It was neutral on the question of masks.
We're on the same side. I say wear the mask. I'm fine with it. Okay. I have no problem. We're on the same side.
Let's take a break. We're going to get more questions right after this.
This is a situation where the state continues to struggle to expand its testing capabilities.
What in the heat is going on, man? This is really, really annoying me. This lady here is really, really like getting on my last nerves. I mean, you can see in the comments what she's saying. I mean, it's just, they want to get these gotcha questions on them, and they want to see, I got you here, got you there, and they want to, but one thing Trump is doing is he's really good at this format, and they may have forgotten how good he is at this format, where he can take the punch from the moderator or from from the adversary and turn it around and double down when he needs to and talk common sense when he needs to and be honest and say, if he doesn't know, he says, I don't know. And so I think people find that very refreshing, that he's not like, looking for some esoteric answer, some very nuanced Harvard answer. No, he's talking like a real person. And I think that's very refreshing. I think people are going to appreciate that. I think his numbers are going to go up because of this. I think people are shocked to see what he's saying because MSN has held this from their viewers. So what he's saying, a lot of people are hearing this for the very, 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 very first time. And I think they're going to regret putting him on here. But I think they have to because of the fair clause laws with media. They have to, I forgot the clause that says you have to have equal time, whatever it's called. So because of that, they, I guess, felt they had to put him on. Or maybe they felt they could catch him in some real big gotcha question to what they put him on. But I think he's doing really, really well tonight.
With President Trump for a town hall. Live in Miami with President Trump for a town hall. Thank you again, Mr. President. We have another voter now, Christy Alonso. Come on out, Christy. She is leaning slightly towards you. She says she voted for you in 2016. Christy, you ready? Take the mask off, hold the mic close, and let's hear your question.
Thank you for your service, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
We're a hardworking middle-class family of 4. My husband and I are both self-employed, and we have to get our own individual health care. As you know, healthcare costs have gone up considerably over the decades, and you had originally said you were going to repeal and replace Obamacare. What is your plan now in 2020 to make healthcare costs affordable for Americans like myself?
So we got rid of the individual mandate on Obamacare, which was the worst part of Obamacare, and now you could actually say it's not Obamacare because that's how big it was, where you had to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. So we got rid of that. That was a big, big thing. And by doing that, and we will always have, by the way, we're always protecting people with pre-existing conditions, and I can't say that more strongly, but we've been able to bring healthcare costs way down. Now, I took over Obamacare, got rid of the individual mandate, made it good, managed it much better. Remember, they had the $5 billion website disaster and all of the problems they had. The problem with Obamacare, it's not good. We'd like to terminate it, and we want a much less expensive health care that's a much better health care, and that's where we're aiming. And if we can do that, and we have a very good chance of doing it, but we've also brought down the price of Obamacare. Problem with Obamacare, it basically is never going to be great, and I want to give great health care.
Mr. President, I got to follow up on the pre-existing conditions. This is such a big issue for voters.
It is a big issue for me, too.
In point of fact, your administration is about to go to the Supreme Court to argue to throw out the rest of Obamacare, which includes the protections for pre-existing conditions. So your administration is in court right now trying to get rid of that protection.
In order to replace it with a much better health care at a much lower price, and always, under all circumstances, we are going to protect the Republicans. And I mean, maybe I changed the party a lot over the last 3 years, but we will protect people with pre-existing conditions. And Savannah, what I want to do, get rid of the terrible Obamacare. I've already done it to a large extent because, as you know, the individual mandate is gone. That was the worst part.
You repealed, but you haven't replaced. Now, you've been in office almost 4 years. You had both houses of Congress, Senate and House, in Republican hands, and there is not a replacement yet.
That's right. I'm sorry, but if you look, we had both houses, and what did we do? We got rid of the individual mandate.
But
that went through the legislature.
Was repeal and replace.
Look, we should be on the same side. I want it very simple. I'm going to put it very simple. We would like to terminate it, and we would like to replace it with something that's much less expensive and much better. We will always protect people with pre-existing conditions.
If you're successful in court in November, those pre-existing conditions, that promise will be gone.
If we don't succeed, we are running the remnants of whatever's left because we took it apart. We are running the remnants of whatever is left much better than the previous administration, which ran it very badly. But we'd like to have new health care, much better and much less expensive.
Let me get to question number 5, and you'll like this. He's stuck in traffic. His name is Joe White. He is registered as a Democrat. He says he's leaning toward Biden and voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. And his question was, a second stimulus payment has been broadly agreed upon by the Republicans and Democrats, and yet now we're in October and it's still not passed. Why not use your office to make the second stimulus payment a separate targeted emergency relief package to help Americans weather the pandemic?
We've actually passed 3 packages, and we're on our 4th. And I agree with him 100%. He should vote for me. The problem you have is Nancy Pelosi. She couldn't care less about the worker. She couldn't care less about our people. And we should have a stimulus. And I want a stimulus. The Republicans will approve a stimulus. The problem is she doesn't want to do it because she thinks it's bad for her election. The fact is she's wrong because people know she's in our way. She's not approving it. She doesn't appreciate our people. people, and she doesn't appreciate at all our workers. Nancy Pelosi, we are ready to sign and pass stimulus, but she's got to.
People do not love the back and forth of Washington, but this has been a roller coaster. Back in early October, you one day tweeted, no more negotiations until after election day. I'm walking away. Then I think the next couple of days you said maybe we can do something targeted. Then you said I want a big bill, but then Senate Republicans said no, we're not for that. So you're the big deal maker. How come this is so? You yourself have changed positions.
Did you ever hear of a word called negotiation? We're negotiating, okay?
But people's lives are hanging in the balance.
And you know who I'm negotiating against? Nancy Pelosi, because she doesn't want to give the money. We should have stimulus. This was not our people's fault. This was China's fault. And she's penalizing our people. I'm ready to sign a big, beautiful stimulus. You saw the other day, I say, go big or go home, right?
That's what I
want it to be big. I want it to be bold. I want the money to go directly to
Senate Republicans with you. They're going to go big?
They'll go.
Big old number?
They'll go. They're going to be
okay,
very
but so
happy.
far they have not said they would.
Because I haven't asked them to, because I can't get through Nancy Pelosi.
Okay.
If Nancy Pelosi and I, through my representatives or directly, I don't care. If we agree to something, the Republicans will agree to it.
Okay. Our next question comes from, this is interesting. She voted for Clinton in 2016, but recently changed her registration from Democrat to independent. She says she's truly undecided. Her name's Becky Lightman. Hello, Becky. What's your question?
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Nice to see you. Thank you.
Good to see you. So corporate tax rates are a hot button issue, and you have cut corporate tax rates, and your opponent Joe Biden is planning to raise them.
Right.
A lot of Americans think that corporations don't pay their share of taxes and want to see those tax rates increase. Right. What do you say to those Americans to maybe tell them why you want the corporate tax rate lower and why that helps them?
It's a great question. We've created more jobs than this country has ever created. We were up to 160 million jobs. We were never even close to that number. We were just hitting 160 million jobs. Companies are pouring into our nation because of the tax rate. And if Biden comes in and raises taxes on everybody, including middle income taxes, which he wants to do, you will blow this thing and you'll end up with a depression, the likes of which you've never had. That's what's going to happen. We have something that's really good. The reason we're coming back so strong is because we built a very strong foundation. Companies are moving in. Car companies are moving into Michigan, into Ohio, into South Carolina and North Carolina just today. So what's happening is they're coming in because we reduced the taxes. Our taxes, our corporate taxes, were the highest in the world, and now they're among the lower taxes. They're not the lowest, but they're among the lowest. And what that means is jobs. But also, we're doing a very big, and we've done a very big middle-income tax package. So if we get in, we're going to do the middle income tax package. But it's a great question. And if he comes along and raises rates, all those companies that are coming in, they will leave the U.S. so fast your head will spin. We can't let that happen.
On the subject of taxes, as you know, the New York Times has obtained, it says, years of your tax returns, among other things. It says that you have debts of approximately $421 million that you have personally guaranteed and that will come due in the next 4 years. The question is, on behalf of voters, who do you owe $421 million
first of all,
to?
let me answer. What they did is illegal, number one. Also, the numbers are all wrong with the numbers they released. And just so you understand, when you have a lot of real estate, I have real estate, you know a lot of it, okay? Right down the road, Doral, big stuff, great stuff. I'm very when I decided to run, I'm very under-levered, fortunately, but I'm very under-levered. I have a very, very small percentage of debt compared, in fact, some of it I did as favors to institutions that wanted to loan me money. $400 million compared to the assets that I have, all of these great properties all over the world, and frankly, the Bank of America building in San Francisco. I don't love what's happening to San Francisco.
Well, do I hear you right? It sounds like you're saying $400 million isn't that much.
Biggest office buildings.
But are you confirming that yes, you do owe some $400 million?
What I'm saying is that it's a tiny percentage of my net worth.
That sounds like
you'll see that soon because we're doing things, you know. We've given, I think it's 108 or 112 pages of financial detail to elections. And, you know, we have to file as the president, as any politician, you have to file. Nobody ever looks at that. When they do, they see how incredible the company is. But more importantly, They see where this debt is. No, I don't owe Russia money. I don't owe. I owe a very, very small. It's called mortgages. Yeah. People have a house.
Any foreign bank, any foreign entity?
Not that I know of, but I will probably, because it's so easy to solve. And if you'd like to do, I will let you know who I owe whatever small amount of money. I want to say two things. Number one, it's a very small amount of money. Number two, it's very straight. It's very, very straight, but it's a tiny percentage of the worth. Did you ever hear the expression underlevered?
Yeah.
I am extremely underlevered.
Well, here's the thing. You could clear this up tonight by just releasing your tax returns yourself. I mean, that's what I understand. I think people are just wondering,
you know,
you're the only.
It turned out that I am
yes,
underwater.
But the IRS says you are.
No, but you
the IRS says that doesn't stop you from releasing.
Accused me of not being under audit previously, and so did other people at NBC. And I am under audit. So that was solved. That's good. I am under audit. No person in their right mind would release prior to working out the deal with the IRS. And I'll go a step further. I'm treated very badly by the IRS. They treat me very, very badly. You have people in there from previous administrations. They treat me very badly. But we're under audit. It's very routine in many ways, but we're under audit. They like to change the game, change the rules, do everything. You saw what they did with the Tea Party people. You saw what they did with the religious
group. To be clear, there is no law or rule that prohibits you from releasing your tax returns.
Except common sense and intelligence and having lawyers that say, because I would love to release them, and as soon as we come to a conclusion, I will release them, and very gladly. But if you go to elections, and if you take a look, you'll see 112. I think it's 112. It talks about the income, which is rather massive. It talks about all of the properties. They have them listed. You can never learn more. But you know what happened? People went there. All the reporters went there. It was like a feeding frenzy. This was originally when I filed it. And I filed it every year. I update it every year. My son is here. They run the company. I don't run the company.
It also says that you paid $750 in taxes in the year you were elected.
Yeah,
is that
that's
true
a statutory number. It's a statutory.
But is that true?
I think it's a filing number. You pay $750. It's a filing or filing fee.
Most people here probably pay more.
No, I don't know. I can tell you this. If they have my tax returns, as you know, they have to go to jail. It's illegal. But their numbers were wrong. But let me tell you what else. I don't owe money to any of these sinister people. This has been going on for years now. Russia. It turned out to be a hoax. And it turned out to be that Hillary Clinton and the Democrats were dealing with Russia, not me. It's a whole hoax. So I would not mind at all saying who it is, but it's a very small. When you look at vast properties like I have, and they're big and they're beautiful and they're well located, when you look at that, the amount of money, $400 million, is a peanut. It's extremely underlevered. And it's levered with normal banks. Not a big deal.
All right, let's take a break. We'll get more voter questions right after this.
All right, so what do y'all think about that? I mean, part of me wants to really get upset with the commentator, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad she hit him as hard as she hit him, and he came back with great responses. I remember when Trump was running back in 2015, 16, he had these one-on-one discussions with, like, I think, what's her name, Tory, or I forget her name, but several people he would do interviews with, Wolf Blitzer or whatever, and he would just absolutely crush them. And he hasn't gone nuclear on these people yet for this debate. I mean, he could with the insulting the commentator, but he reminds me of that Trump back then when he was energetic, forceful, honest. If you didn't know the answer, he'd let you know. And it's pretty interesting. You watch the black lady on the back corner. I don't know if she's nodding her head. It looks like she's nodding in agreement. So the president's right in the center. The black lady, or the black lady right to our right, his left. she's like nodding her head up and down. So whatever that means. But I think the crowd is probably a friendly crowd for Trump because Florida, especially the Miami area, is definitely Trump territory, especially when you're dealing with Cuban Americans. So, and the young generation tends to go more to the Democrats because they don't have the generational information that the parents and grandparents had because they understand Castro, all that stuff. The young generation don't know quite as much. So we'll see how that goes. But I think Trump's doing really well. And I like the two good policy questions out there. Welcome, Barbara Lerner Spector. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, this is a friendly environment. We get a few trolls, but not very many. I just kick the ones out and don't show anything about it. I don't comment on those people who come on, but it's very, very rare when you do. But yeah, this is definitely a friendly environment. So hope you enjoy that. And we will probably do this whenever there'll be another type of town hall. But as we wrap up to the election, I'll say this now. When election night, it's going to be a private closed session. I'm not going to do it live. I'm going to do it with members of the channel and people who want to come on, because that will be really susceptible to a lot of trolls. So I'll announce that going on later, but that will be aired after the election. But that won't be a live like it is now. It will be a taped live sort of thing, or a live private live, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So I'm gonna get back on here and I'll unmute it once they get back.
Miami in the middle of a town hall with President Trump. Thank you again for being here. We've got another voter, Adam Sugar. He voted for Clinton in 2016. He's registered as a Democrat and says he's supporting Biden. Adam, take it away.
Thank you, Savannah. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Adam.
4 years ago, Senate leadership said it was inappropriate to push through a nominee in an election year. Yet they fast-tracked your nominee for the Supreme Court just today. The question I have for you is, what do you say to the voter that thinks it's hypocritical to act in that manner and that they can't trust Republicans' word?
So when I was elected and when a president is elected, they're elected for a period of 4 years. And Justice Ginsburg said it best, I think, talking about President Obama having to do with somebody else, that the president is put there for 4 years, not for 3 years. So during this fourth year, it happened to come up, unfortunately, because I had great respect for Justice Ginsburg, but a vacancy happened to come up, and we picked somebody that's outstanding. She has been an absolute star, and I'm extremely proud of it. But again, plenty of time. I mean, there's plenty of time. We're going to do it before the election, but we also have much time after the election, but there's no reason to wait, because it's almost unanimous, it seems to me, certainly within the Republican Party, and frankly, most of the Democrats within closed rooms. I guarantee you that this is an outstanding person, and I'm using my fourth term. And you know, if you look at it, that if you put the shoe on the other foot, if they had this, they would do it 100%. So there's been 29 times when this has happened. All 29 times a president has done exactly what I've done.
Can I just, to the voters' point, I'll just say that in 2016, you were on another show, actually another morning show, and you were asked whether President Obama should nominate a Supreme Court Justice Merrick Garland. And you said, I think the Senate should wait until the next president and let the president pick. Now, that was 8 months before the election. This is 3 weeks before the election.
I have a lot of respect, by the way.
So you have changed your position on this.
I have a lot of respect for Judge Garland, I want to tell you that. But I'll tell you, the whole ball game changed when I saw the way they treated Justice Kavanaugh. I have never seen any human being, and I'm not just talking about Supreme Court, I have never seen a human being treated so badly with false accusations and everything else. I have never seen anything like it. And you know what? The truth is, Savannah, like it or not, the ball game changed a lot. There has never been anybody treated so badly as now Justice Kavanaugh.
You've mentioned that you would like to see Amy Coney Barrett confirmed to the Supreme Court in case any challenges come up in connection with the election. Yeah. Do you expect her to rule for you?
I think she'll have to make that decision. I don't think she has any conflict at all. You know, a Supreme Court judge does not have, I mean, they can make their own decision. And they actually have additional power to make that decision. It would be totally up to her. I would think that she would be able to rule either for me or against me. I don't see any conflict whatsoever. We have an election coming up. I think it's the most important election in the history of our country. If for any chance, and it probably won't, and I hope it doesn't ever get to the Supreme Court, but if it did, I would think that she would rule one way or the other. I would think so.
But for you think she would rule for you?
I have no idea.
I mean, of course she'll rule one way or the other, but
believe it or not, I never asked her about it. I never talked about it. I didn't talk about any of the obvious things that you could talk about. And I think a lot of people in my position might. But in speaking to a lot of very brilliant people and people that do this for a living, they say it's better not to talk. So I talked to her about life. I talked to her about the fact, would you like to do this? Are you willing to do this? Because it's a tremendous burden. The answer was yes. She's unbelievably well qualified, but I never spoke to her about these various questions.
let's get our next voter. She's leaning to you, Mr. President. She voted for you in 2016. She is a registered Republican. Her name is Mariah Green. Mariah, what's your question?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President. I'm honored to be with you here tonight, sir, so thank you. I'm a pro-life millennial, and my question for you today is, if Roe v. Wade is ultimately overturned in the future, what protections would be put in place or kept for where the mother's life is in jeopardy in relation to high-risk pregnancies?
Well, again, I'm not ruling on this, and Roe v. Wade is something that a lot of people would say, obviously, you're going to speak to somebody. I also, two other great justices, Justice Gorsuch and Justice Kavanaugh, I never spoke to them about Roe v. Wade. I never spoke to them about election laws. I never spoke to them about anything. And I've done the right thing from a moral standpoint. I don't even know from a legal standpoint, but it was the right thing. I think, depending on what happens with Roe v. Wade, I think that perhaps it could get sent down to the states, and the states would decide. I also think perhaps nothing will happen. I have not talked to her about it. I think it would be inappropriate to talk to her about it. And some people would say you can talk to her about it. I just think it would be inappropriate.
But what is your preference? Because it agreed, that's not something you should talk to the judge about. But would you like to see Roe versus Wade overturned?
I would like to see a brilliant jurist, a brilliant person who has done this in great depth and has actually skirted this issue for a long time, make a decision. And that's why I chose her. I think that she's going to make a great decision. I did not tell her what decision to make, and I think it would be inappropriate to say right now, because I don't want to do anything to influence her. I want her to get approved, and then I want her to go by the law, and I know she's going to make a great decision for our country.
But you running as a pro-life Republican, most pro-life Republicans would like to see Roe v. Wade overturned and abortion banned.
Many of them would.
What do you
Perhaps
think?
most of them would. I am telling you, I don't want to do anything to influence anything right now. I don't want to go out tomorrow and say, oh, he's trying to give her a signal, because I didn't speak to her about it. I've done the right thing in so doing. How she's going to rule, you're going to find out perhaps, or you might not find out. I mean, it may never get there. It may never get there. We'll see what happens.
All right. We have another question. This is Cindy Velez. She is undecided. She says she's leaning to Biden, and she did vote for Clinton in 2016. She's registered as a Democrat. Hi, Cindy. What's your question?
Good evening, Savannah. Good evening, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
As the mother of a young male of color, I have raised him to respect authority, not only because it's the right thing to do, but also out of fear that he may face profiling or be considered a criminal. As an educator, I've also had similar conversations with my high school students. Mr. President, what will you and your administration do to better prepare our law enforcement officers to work in collaboration with the communities that they serve, and also to protect the lives of innocent Black and Latinos from police brutality and injustice?
Right. I fully understand the question, and I saw everything that you saw over the summer, and it was a terrible thing to watch. We were very strongly, we have a senator named Tim Scott from South Carolina. He came up with a bill that should have been approved. It was great. It was a bill that was strong in terms of law enforcement and strong in terms of enforcing the proper thing and doing the proper thing by law enforcement. And the Democrats just wouldn't go for it. They wouldn't go for it at all. And I don't know why, because it was a really great bill. But I do have to say this. And some people don't like it when I say it, but a lot of people agree. I have done more for the African American community than any president, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln. Criminal justice reform, prison reform, historically black colleges and universities. I got them funded. They were on a year-to-year basis. They could have been put out of business. As soon as our country had a little bad year, they would have said, I'm sorry, we're not going to fund you. I got them 10-year funding and financing, and more than they even asked for. I became very friendly with a lot of the heads. But we've done more. And, of course, opportunity zones. But criminal justice reform, everybody said it could not be done. President Obama and Biden never even tried to do it. They never even tried. But I say that, and I say it often. I'll say it loud, and I'm very proud of it. And I have a great relationship because of what I've done with the African American community. I'm very proud of it.
Let's go to our next question. We have Paulette Dale. She leans slightly to Biden. She voted for Clinton in 2016. She's registered as a Republican. Paulette, what's your question?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
I have to say, you have a great smile.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, he does. You're so handsome when you smile. Okay. As the daughter of immigrants to the United States who fled Eastern Europe due to religious persecution, the United States immigration policies are very personal for me.
Right.
Surveys show that most Americans and the majority of Republicans support the Dreamers program. So my question for you, Mr. President, is if you are elected to a second term, do you expect to pursue your previous efforts to cut the DACA program?
Yeah.
Why or why not?
And the DACA is somewhat different than Dreamers. You understand that, and you understand it better than anybody probably in this room. Where do you come from, by the way, originally?
My grandparents were from Russia and Poland.
That's very good. Okay. So we are going to take care of DACA. We're going to take care of Dreamer. It's working right now. We're negotiating different aspects of immigration and immigration law. We built now over 400 miles of border wall, southern border. Mexico is working very closely with us. We have the strongest border we've ever had. We want people to come into our country. They have to come in legally. But we are working very hard on the DACA program, and you will be, I think, very happy over the course of the next year.
Thank you.
Because I feel the same way as you do about it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
President.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, in point of fact, the DACA program, there are, under your administration, no new applicants are allowed. And in fact, the DACA recipients now have to renew every year as opposed to every 2 years. So in fact, the DACA program has been curtailed by your administration.
Well, what happened is because of the pandemic, much changed on the immigration front. Mexico is heavily infected, as you know, and we've made it very, very difficult to come in because of the pandemic and other reasons, and crime. But we have a very strong border right now, and we have to keep it that way. But we want people to come into our country, but they have to come in through a merit system, and they have to come in legally. And people are very, very happy with it. You haven't heard any complaints about that. But what happened is because of the pandemic, we have to be extra cautious.
You have been promising this immigration bill since, well, at least July, when you told my colleague on Telemundo it was coming, but nothing's come yet.
It's very happy. The fact is we got rid of catch and release, which is a disaster. You know, you catch somebody, they could be a murderer, they could be a rapist, and we're supposed to release them into our country. These are the laws that I inherited. We ended that program. Now, I think you're going to see something very, very good. The whole immigration, if you look at what's going on, people used to pour into our country, and especially during the pandemic. I think even you, Savannah, will be very impressed.
Sir, we have about 30 seconds left. I think about people sitting out there tonight. There are some who love you. Some of them are sitting right around here, and some who will never vote for you. But there are people in the middle. There are people who aren't sure.
That's right.
There are people who want to know why they should give you a second chance and how you might improve in a second term. 30 seconds. What would you say to them?
Because I've done a great job. We have the strongest economy in the world. We closed it up. We are coming around the corner. The vaccines are coming out soon, and our economy is strong. We are at a level with jobs like we've never been before. We've rebuilt our military. We've rebuilt our borders. We had no borders. We had no nothing. We've rebuilt so much. We've given you the greatest tax cut in the history of our country, greatest regulation cut, equally as important. And we created new levels of jobs that nobody thought was possible. And next year is going to be better than ever before.
I got to leave it there.
No borders. We had no nothing. We've rebuilt so much. We've given you the greatest tax cut in the history of our country, greatest regulation cut, equally as important. And we created new levels of jobs that nobody thought was possible. And next year is going to be better than ever before.
I got to leave it there.
All right, so I guess that's it. It just cut off, but I guess that's all there is. So let me kill this feed here.
No borders. We had no nothing. We've rebuilt so much. We've given you the greatest tax cut in the history of our country, greatest regulation cut, equally as important. And we created new levels of jobs that nobody thought was possible.
All right, sorry about that. So yeah, so the feed just died. So all right, so so I think that where to start? Gosh, I wasn't taking notes. I was actually going through the comments here and looking at them, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's just so much to unpack in this particular thing. But my overall takeaway from this discussion is, of course, we got the aggressiveness from the moderator in the beginning. And I think if you were to graph this out, you would see from the level of, from our perspective, it'd be like almost like a, I wouldn't say a bell curve. It really kind of went like this, right? It kind of just kept going up for me. I thought that Trump from the very, very beginning was on his game. He did not let himself, well, he never really gets upset on one-on-ones. Because first of all, he is just so much more poised. He is a larger than life figure. And this commentator, I don't even know her name. If you want, give me her name in the comments below. I'd be curious to know what her name is. Because I don't watch MSNBC or NBC. So he's just so much better than her in terms of his stature, his demeanor. And, you know, to her credit, she didn't really back down, but she really had nothing more to come at him than the same old talking points that he gets every single day in the media. And they're so easy to refute. I mean, all those talking points are just ridiculous and so easy to refute. And he did a decent job, but I think what's more important, what Trump did, was I think that he answered the questions in a way that was forceful. He was a very presidential demeanor, and he was very sharp. And like I said before in the chat, that people who watched the first debate, particularly Latinos, if you looked at I think it was Telemundo, did a poll after the debate where Trump had over 70% of the approval of that he won the debate. And if you look at the internals in that particular study and other studies like that, dealing with Latinos and that culture, even black culture, especially black men, we don't like people who are pansies, right? We don't like people who back down. And they like people who are aggressive. If you look at the world leaders of today, in Brazil, Europe, the conservative leaders, the ones who are know their subject matter, say it in a way that is plain spoken and forceful, wins over people. And I think he did a really good job at that. I thought that he was on command of everything. If I were to play devil's advocate here and say in areas that he maybe didn't do as well as other areas, maybe the tax thing, because people don't understand a lot of that, what he's trying to talk about, being underleveraged, whatever. But at the same time, that's not an issue people really care about. So that would be one thing he may have not done as well, because it takes a tax attorney to explain it. But he did do a good job saying, number one, if you get the taxes, you're going to jail because that's illegal. And just explaining it and just talking plain spokenly that if I wasn't under audit, who, by the way, the IRS treats me unfairly compared to other people, then I would release the taxes. And he also talked about his financial statements that he releases every time he files. That's something that you have to give, which tells you more about your company and where it stands in terms of earnings and losses and all of that sort of thing than a taxes will ever do. Because taxes, can you imagine Trump's tax returns? I mean, can you imagine? I mean, if you have more than 3 or 4 mutual funds, you're already talking about 5 pages, minimum. And so, and don't worry about if you're itemizing, forget about it, And can you imagine someone who makes the money that he makes and the diversity he has with this Trump corporation? It's just ridiculous. So that would be the one area that I would say that he maybe could have done stronger in, but at the same time, I don't think it really matters. I thought he was strong on the abortion issue. I thought he was strong on the HBCU, opportunity zones, African Americans. What he's done more than any president, save maybe Abraham Lincoln. I think him saying that, I mean, it's so bold and it's so true that it almost takes you back for him to say something that bold, and for him to say that in a way that's like, here, change my mind or prove me wrong. I think that's just cool, and people like that, and it forces you to prove him wrong, which also forces you to go after and look at his record. And to do that, they don't want to do that because they go back and try to prove him wrong on that fact. And they have to go back and say, hey, well, yeah, he did give more money to HBCUs, which stands for historically Black colleges and universities, than any president in history, including President Obama. Then they don't want to talk about that. And so, I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me see. You got any questions here? Let me go over. I can go over here now because I'm not on the wrong. I can do it. Well, I'll do it over here. That's fine. Let me see who we got here. Earl. I'll just scroll through some of these questions here. He's done well tonight. I wonder if Sleepy Joe's awake yet. Well, he's been sleeping all day because of what's happened with his son. And I think Trump hasn't brought up the thing about Hunter Biden yet because he's just waiting for the right moment. Oh, and by the way, him bringing up the Kavanaugh question was really, really good at the right time because he knew the second question was coming. I mean, he was obviously coached very well on this, or he just knew instinctively that was going to come about the whole dealing with should we, number one, have a nomination during a presidential year, right? That was definitely going to come up. So he answered that by basically talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and her stance on it. So that was handling that. But he knew that quote was going to come up. I'm sure he knew that. So the second follow-up question to that was, oh, well, 8 months prior to Obama leaving office, the whole thing with Garland, you said that we should probably keep the person. We should probably, not wait. We should probably wait till after the election. And so I thought they got him. I thought they actually stumped him there. I really did. I thought they got him there. I didn't know how he was going to handle that question. But to bring up Kavanaugh at that moment was just that to me was the best part of the debate in terms of, well, it really was a debate. Let's not make any bones about it. This was a debate. This was not a town hall. This was a debate. This was people raising questions and the moderator interrupting and interjecting her left-wing talking point to trying to combat that. But I thought they had him on that point. But to bring up Kavanaugh and say, hey, games change. You guys treated him like a dog. And so with that, all bets are off. There's no response to that because they don't want to follow up on that, because they follow up on that, guess what? They have to bring up all the crap they had to bring up with Kavanaugh. And then again, they do not want to remember the way they behaved the past 3 years. They want you to forget all about that. They want you to forget about Antifa burning down buildings. They want you to forget about BLM burning down buildings. They want you to forget about the situation with Kavanaugh. They want you to forget about the whole Ukraine, Russia gate that's now coming out. That's actually was the DNC and Hillary Clinton and Obama and Biden and all those guys in cahoots to undermine a duly elected president. They don't want you talking about any of that. The strategy right now is for the Democrats to focus only on Trump and to cut him off and to mischaracterize and to hide and to smear and to censor as much as possible to get this walking corpse over the finish line. So let me see. Who was better president economy? Let's see. How come they didn't let the African American lady in the back who was shaking her head in agreement with fist pumps too? You see that? Yeah. I thought the questions were very, very good. I thought the lady who said you have a wonderful smile, I think that humanized him. The DACA question got a small applause because Trump knows his audience, man, and he really. I mean, I can't say his performance was so excellent tonight. It was excellent tonight. It was perfect in my mind. Let's see. Maybe her question was, yeah. First of all, thank you. Let me just say, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this right now. We still have about 14 people on the call. Thank you so much for coming out on this call, on this town hall. I did this at the last minute because I felt, well, maybe people will want to talk about it and discuss it and watch it. And I just appreciate people coming out and sharing. And I think one person who came on here, I forget her name, I'm sorry, but she responded by saying, I'm a Google Barbara Lerner Specter, who basically was happy to be on here to have a friendly environment to discuss this. Because I'm pretty sure right now, if you go on YouTube and try and do a live stream somewhere, you're going to get a lot of hate and vitriol and all that stuff. And right now, my channel's small enough right now that we don't get that quite yet. I'm sure when we get bigger, that will happen. But I have hooks in place to help get some of that out of the way as well. And so what I'm looking to do eventually is get some moderators. And I was going to do live call-ins, but that's too much of a technical setup. But at some point in time, I'm going to have live call-ins where I'm going to need moderators to help cue the callers, screen the callers, and put them into a special area where we can kind of check the audio and whatever, and then bring them on the air. And so that's a whole setup. It'll probably take a team of at least 3 or 4. So if you want to come on board and join us, I have a join button on my channel. Click that button there and find out how you can get plugged in, or just send me a direct message on YouTube. There's actually my email in there if you go to the About section, and send me a response, and I can talk to you about how that can be. It'll be a volunteer basis. Right now, we can't staff anyone yet. Hopefully, that will change. But yeah, so that's where we are. And so yeah, so that's what we are. So we do culture, TV, movies, and politics. We filter it right, and we do this kind of stuff here. I do stuff on exposés, on stories that come out that really haven't been exposed yet. I haven't done one in a while because there's been so much stuff going on. The news cycle is going on constantly, so it's easier to do a blog type video or a live stream, and to get the content out quicker versus taking a month to do a video, which is good, but doesn't seem to get the hits that it needs to get, because by the time it comes out, the news story's already been covered. So you kind of got to find a talking point or an article that's going to extend beyond the time that when it launches, it'll still be relative. So that's one of the reasons why we haven't done a lot of exposés recently. So let's go to some questions here. Okay, let's go back. I think I missed one. Let's see. Oh yeah, let's go back up here. So yeah, the crime bill. Wow. So it says that Joe Biden just admitted that supporting the 1994 crime bill, which he helped write, was a mistake. No, yeah. Well, I guess he had to do that. It's right now, Biden is not doing as strongly as Hillary Clinton was with the Black community. So he's probably trying to just do damage control. But by him admitting that, really is kind of a catch-22, because people be like, what, you did that? Now he's making a mistake. And so to me, him admitting it is almost as bad as him just ignoring it, which also means that the message is getting out. Because if he could ignore it, then that means the message is not getting out. But the fact that he actually has to call out and say it was a mistake means that our message is getting out, which is good. Let me see. Hunter asked no questions about the emails. Of course. In fact, I had a bet on my Facebook saying, how much you want to bet that there's no questions on Hunter's emails? People were betting the houses, the mortgages. People were pretty much, it was pretty funny that people were saying, yeah, this was not going to happen. See, hoping tomorrow will release more info on McGowan Team 6, etc. There's supposed to be the informant guy. I don't know if you saw the video on YouTube. The guy looks like Gandalf. He's like an informant, a CIA, ex-CIA operative. So he has videos and audio of proof that SEAL Team 6 was set up by the Obama administration, and with Osama not being killed and not being buried at sea, a bunch of stuff there. But that document hasn't come out yet, so we're waiting to see that come out. If it does, that would be a huge, huge bombshell. And that was a question that was asked of President Trump in the debate. And he said, well, I just retweeted it because if I don't retweet stuff, it'll never get out there. So he's basically saying, look, you know, he put it out there for people to go and look for themselves. He's basically doing the job for the media. He's actually doing the job of the media, essentially, by using his social media, which, by the way, is being banned by him just tweeting out the article by the New York Post of the emails of Hunter Biden, which is, again, unconstitutional and ridiculous. I agree, Kyle, that question about judges, bang on. He really was well-versed. He knew about the precedents and how precedents was on his side. I agree. I'm glad to watch with you and have not to watch with the haters. I absolutely agree. Those guys get booted really, really quickly if they come up. I don't want U.S. to remember the Kavanaugh debacle. Yeah, exactly. They didn't. Yeah, exactly right. They want to talk about, right. They want to talk about Garland from 2 years ago. But again, that's really a catch-22. And so, as you said before, that he is very well versed, because if the Garland thing comes up, you got to talk about Kavanaugh. That's the answer. That's the talking point, the response that I'm sure that he was told to say. And there's no comeback on that, because it goes right into the face of how the Democrats acted, like spoiled little children. Let's see. Hey, Kyle, I wasn't planning on watching the town hall, but when I saw you were hosting, I had to watch. Thank you, sir. You are welcome. You're welcome. And I wasn't planning on doing it. I was just talking, you know, with some people on my Facebook, and we decided, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. So, so really, guys and gals, that is pretty much all I have for tonight. Again, I want to thank everybody so much. If you have more questions before I finish, I'll answer them. If you are a member of the Conservative Take, then I will be doing a question and answer for just you guys. And you can, I'll put up a post on the community forum, and you can go ahead and ask those questions, and I will do a special video just for you there until we can get some call-in set up. And it's kind of a convoluted kind of deal. I'm probably a few months away from getting that set up. But for now, for that, leave your questions in there, and we will have a private session there. And we'll have a ask me anything you want to ask me about. I will do that. And oh, by the way, everybody, I did do a review on the Trump card movie review by Dinesh D'Souza. So Dinesh D'Souza did a movie. It came out last week. I actually got it 3 days early for some reason. I found a link that actually allowed you to buy it 3 days prior to it being online. So I watched it. I did the review that night, and I put it up. And if you haven't had a chance to see the review, it's a spoiler-free review up to a point. About 2/3 of the way in, I have a section. No, about 1/3 of the way in, I have a spoiler section that you can skip over, and you can go to the end about the my intake or my input in that movie and my overall reaction and my rating of the movie. Spoiler alert, it was an awesome film. If you had a chance to check it out, check it out. It's called Trump Card. It deals with saving capitalism. It deals with how the leftist movement is coming into this country, how it's being infiltrated into this country, and how President Trump is the one barrier that can prevent all of that. Not only President Trump, but also the Trump movement, okay? Because Trump is really a movement. Trumpism is the movement. Trump is the personification of that movement. But at the end of the day, it comes down to principles and philosophies that go back to our origins. It goes back to a time when our country was prosperous, we were strong, we weren't so politically correct, we were tough on foreign enemies, we were strong on our economy, we were strong on manufacturing. That was what making America great was all about. That's what Trumpism is all about, is getting us back to a point where we are truly Americans, truly a melting pot, truly a country of liberty, where we basically say you can do anything you want as long as you don't offend anyone else. We are a nation of many, come to one, il pluribus unum, which basically means we're melting pots. And lastly, that we are a country who believes in God, and we are a country in God we trust, meaning that we can share our faith in any way we choose, and that ultimately our belief systems not our belief systems, but our rights come from a higher power, come from God, and that means that our rights cannot be taken from us. And so that's what Trumpism is about. That's what MAGA is all about. And this particular movie, Trump Card, has to do with saving that and keeping it intact, because what's happening is we're being slowly infiltrated by a radical left-wing group, which is hijacking the Democrat Party, because they're the ones that are easily manipulated, which they talk about in the movie, to do what they want to do. And we can't let that happen. So early voting has started in many, many states. And I recommend everyone going out and getting your vote in, if not day of election, early. I would not say to vote mail-in voting if you can, because I don't trust it if you have an R by your name. In fact, if you have a D by your name, you really can't trust it, because anything can happen with mail-in voting. You know, there's a certain level of votes by percentage-wise that are going to not make it to the final count simply by the nature of mail-in voting. It's just the way it works, you know. So anyway, that's all I had. So I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Let me see if there's any more questions before I get off here. Let me see. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna cut it short there. And so that's it. So again, thank you so much. My name is Kyle, and this is The Conservative Take. And if you like what we do here, we take culture, TV, movies, and politics, and we filter to you the right way, then please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. Hit that join button below if you want to find out more about how you can tag along with us and become a team player with us and find out more about what we're trying to do and our overall vision. Click that join button, and it tells you all about that. We greatly appreciate that. We have a walkedaway.net website where you can let the world know where you first walked away. Check that out. And as always, please check out some content that we have. Well, actually, I'm not going to put my screen up here, so I won't do that right now. But if you want to check out some content, go to my website, and you can find more of that as well at theconservativetake.com. All right. So until next time, I will see you guys later.